Hi, friends. Welcome back to Stay Anchored Kids. Today, we're starting a brand new book of the Bible. We finished Genesis, where we learned about creation, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. Now we're moving into the book of Exodus. And while Genesis ended on a hopeful note, things are about to get very difficult for God's people. Now remember, Joseph and his family had moved to Egypt during the famine. Over the years, Jacob's family grew and grew and grew. Children were born, then grandchildren, then great grandchildren. Eventually, the family became a large group of people, the Israelites. Just as God had promised Abraham many years earlier, his descendants were multiplying. God was keeping his promises. But then something changed. The Bible tells us, then a new king to whom Joseph meant nothing came to power in Egypt. In other words, many years had passed. The people who remembered Joseph were gone. The new Pharaoh didn't know Joseph's story. He didn't remember how Joseph had helped save Egypt during the famine. All he saw was a growing group of Israelites, and he became afraid. Pharaoh looked at the Israelites and thought, there's so many of them. What if they become stronger than us? What if they join our enemies? Instead of trusting God, Pharaoh let fear control him. And fear often causes people to make bad decisions. So Pharaoh came up with a plan. He decided to make the Israelites slaves. Can you imagine that? The descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were forced to do hard labor. They built cities, worked long hours, and were treated harshly. Life became very difficult. But something interesting happened. Even though Pharaoh oppressed the Israelites, they continued to grow in number. The more Pharaoh tried to stop them, the more God continued blessing them. Because God's promises cannot be stopped by human rulers. Now Pharaoh became even more afraid. So he came up with an even more terrible plan. He ordered that Hebrew baby boys should be killed. This was a horrible command, a cruel command, a sinful command. Pharaoh was trying to stop God's people from growing. But here's something important to remember. No king is more powerful than God. No ruler can stop God's plans. And that's exactly what we're about to see. Because while Pharaoh was trying to destroy God's people, God was preparing a rescuer. A baby who one day would challenge Pharaoh himself. His name was Moses. Now here's today's big question. Why do people sometimes do evil things? The Bible teaches that sin affects every human heart. Fear, pride, jealousy, hatred. These things can lead people to make terrible choices. Pharaoh was consumed by fear and pride. Instead of trusting God, he tried to control everything himself. And that led him down a very dangerous path. Now, some people ask, if God is all powerful, why doesn't he stop evil immediately? That's an important question. Sometimes God allows evil to act for a season, but he never loses control. Throughout the Bible, we see God patiently working out his plan, and eventually he brings justice. Pharaoh probably thought he was winning, but he had no idea what God was about to do. Before we finish today, remember this truth. No matter how powerful people seem, God is always greater. Kings come and go, empires rise and fall, but God's promises stand forever. All right, friends, thanks for joining me today. Tomorrow, we're going to meet a baby named Moses and see how God protected him in a very surprising way. Before you go, here's today's challenge. Think about this question or ask your parents or someone you trust. Have you ever been tempted to let fear make your decisions? What happens when we trust God instead? And let's finish with a quick prayer. God, thank you that you are greater than every problem and every powerful person. Help us trust you when life feels scary and remember that your plans can never be stopped. Amen. See you next time, friends.